I'm Mike.
I'm Sam. Let's get into it.
I'm sorry to explode like that, but it's like no one's ever worked on TV here before. Jesus.
Welcome to episode 44. As we said last episode, we're going to do a week one preview with YNO Sports, our old friend. Before we get into the Sunday games, I'm just going to quickly recap yesterday's game against the Chiefs versus the Texans, which was 34-20. I mean, the score is a little closer than it was. It was pretty much pure domination by the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, a little over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, I think the most surprising thing out of that game was how good rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire was with 25 carries, 138 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, he was a beast. It just shows that throughout this whole year, they're going to really use him. And if he comes to his own as a bona fide star, that the Chiefs are going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come with their four-headed monster there in Kansas City. But without further ado, let's get into the Sunday game. So the first matchup is Seattle Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons at 1 o'clock. For this game, I think the Seahawks are going to win this game. I just think they're just a better organization. I think they're ready to go out there firing Russell Wilson, always probably top 5 quarterback in the NFL recently. I mean, I'm just scared. I don't know if Matt Ryan and just with that Dan Quinn offense, if they're really going to be able to perform. They always come out slow at the beginning of the year, so I just think that the Seahawks are going to win this one.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm taking Seattle. It's not that hard of a pick for me. I mean, especially because Seattle's got a lot of better presence with Russell Wilson and everything. I feel like that'll help them a lot without any preseason games going on. Obviously, Atlanta has a decent amount too, but I think Russell Wilson's going to be able to take that team, and I expect a big game from DK Metcalf in the first game. And I expect not a very close game in Atlanta.
I respect that. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game, but I think the key to beating the Falcons, who have so many weapons, really is that pass rush, and Seattle kind of has a depleted pass rush. Going into this season, I think Seattle's going to be a better football team, but a lot of fluky things happen week one, and I'm going to have the Falcons winning week one.
So 2 for the Seahawks, 1 for the Falcons, so we'll see. We're excited for that. I mean, Julio Jones, always a fun player to watch. But moving on to our next game, we have the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills, 1 o'clock. Quarterback Sam Darnold versus Josh Allen facing off from the same draft class. I think that this game is going to be – I think it's going to be a closer game. I know the Bills have a pretty great roster, probably one of the top rosters in the NFL, but I think that these teams are going to fight well against each other because they are division rivals, and I think the Bills are going to come out on top. I mean, Josh Allen, has a great arm talent. I'm excited to see what Stephon Diggs can do with the newly added Buffalo Bill. I mean, David Singletary out of the backfield, so I'm excited to see what the Bills can do, but I'm going to go with Bills for this one.
All right, so I'm super high on Buffalo this year. I think they'll take their division pretty handily. And honestly, there's no good reason for me to say this, but I think the Jets win this game. I just kind of had a gut feeling that the Jets can pull this one off. This year, even though there was a report that Frank Gore was out playing Le'Veon Bell this year, I'm still very high on Le'Veon Bell, and I think he's going to do really well this year, even though, Buffalo defense is really good. I honestly can't give you too many reasons on why, because Buffalo is a better team in almost every single category, but I got the Jets winning. Again, fluky things happen.
I absolutely understand your reasoning there. I always have that gut feeling that New York is going to beat Buffalo whenever they play, especially the Jets. I think it's going to be a really close game. I just think that the Bills' defense is going to end up pulling out of this game. Again, I think it's going to be a struggle, but I'm going to have the Bills winning this game.
An interesting take there with Frank Gore outperforming Le'Veon Bell. I think, side note, I think Le'Veon Bell has been kind of not as good as he once was when he was in Pittsburgh. I mean, I think he's just fallen off a bit. But anyways, going into the next game, Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions. Mitchell Trubisky recently winning the quarterback job against Nick Foles. The Bears aren't the favorite in this game at all. I think there's just not a lot of unknowns there with them continually going with Mitchell Trubisky after him constantly underperforming, being underwhelming. I think Matthew Stafford is a very underrated quarterback in the eyes of many people. I think he's constantly putting up great numbers and just leading a Detroit Lions team that has not much talent at all. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions in this game.
I got the Lions as well. I'm actually high on Detroit. I believe I have them going 8-8, which is high for Detroit standards. I think Stafford had a really underrated year last year before he went down with an injury, and I don't have a lot of faith in Chicago this year whatsoever. I think this is Trubisky's last year in Chicago after this. I don't know where he's going. I don't know what he's going to do. And I don't know the severity I actually don't remember. I know David Montgomery did get hurt. I don't know if he's actually playing in the game or not.
Mm.
I don't know what happened there, but I do have Detroit winning this game. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a closer game than I think we all expect, but I do think the Lions are going to win just because sometimes it comes down to if your rosters are kind of competitive enough to stay close and one team has a top 10 quarterback and another team has a fringe top 30 quarterback, I just think the better quarterback's going to.
So this game's a bit of a bigger game going for this weekend, so we can talk about it a little longer because we're trying to do these a little quickly. But the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings, two teams that can potentially win the NFC North at the end of the year. A lot of storylines going into this. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, someone who's trying to prove himself after last year kind of taking the backseat as the Packers turn into more of a run-style offense. And then the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, or losing Stephon Diggs. A lot of people saying Kirk Cousins is just kind of a game manager, but I'm excited to watch this game. I think that the Vikings are actually going to win. I think their defense constantly has Aaron Rodgers' number. They hit him hard, and he kind of crumbles under the pressure when they hit him hard, even though he's Aaron Rodgers. And what do you guys think about this game?
I agree with you. I do have Minnesota winning. So there's been a debate for ever since the offseason really started about who's going to win this division. And then Minnesota traded Stephon Diggs, and that kind of changed everything. And I've seen a lot of people picking Minnesota as the better team. I think Green Bay is the better team. But I do believe that Minnesota does win this game. As you said, their defense always seems to have Aaron Rodgers' number. And even without Everson Griffin, who I believe went on IR for a little bit, I believe Minnesota pulls out of this one. It'll be super close, though. I'm interested. Bold prediction, I think it comes down to the last 2 minutes of the game, but I think Minnesota pulls it out.
I hear where you guys are coming from. I just think that this new age Packers defense completely has the Vikings number. Now, in my opinion, I think the Vikings offense got slightly worse last year, or from last year to this year, losing Stephon Diggs. And the Packers held them to 10 points, then 16 points last year, sweeping them in their divisional games. So I'm just really confident in the Packers week one. They always seem to kind of struggle through week one, but always squeak and by and get the win. So I'm gonna have the Packers winning this one.
Do you think someone like Justin Jefferson, who they drafted, can kind of just step right up into that Stephon Diggs role that they're missing?
Not right away. I think eventually, yes, but Stephon Diggs adds so much, not only on the slot, but on the outside, creating separation on the outside, and that's something I think Justin Jefferson is going to have to prove.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably looking at the 1 o'clock slot games. This is probably the most excited game I'm looking forward to watch. I'm watching. Going into the next game, the Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots. So, I mean, obviously massive storylines going into this game. Mm-hmm. No more Tom Brady. The Tom Brady-less era in New England. Cam Newton, I mean, so many chips on his shoulder. He's been written off so many times because of his injuries from Carolina being cut. Now he's signed to a veteran minimum deal in New England. I mean, and the Patriots also missing so many players by opting out. So with that being said, I do think the Patriots are going to win. I think that they're really rallying around Cam Newton and they're excited to play behind him. He's just a different quarterback than they have been playing with for years. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Cam Newton at the helm. And I think that, like I said, the Patriots are going to win this game and what could be a close game.
Mm-hmm.
I got New England winning as well, and I actually I've never been a Cam Newton fan as a person. I've never liked Cam Newton as a quarterback since Panthers won the Super Bowl. I never liked him, but considering his injuries and how bad he was playing before he even got cut from Carolina, and then he hurt his foot and everything, I don't like New England coming into the season. But I think you still got to take him over Miami because I don't think Miami's going to be that good either, for the record, and I think having Fitzpatrick at quarterback, obviously, week 1 through 4 is usually the greatest quarterback in NFL history. But I don't see that happening, even with New England's depleted defense because of everyone opting out. I still think New England wins the game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all the points you made there. Though, again, also not as high as New England going into this season. But I think the Patriots just have to be a lock in this type of game week 1 just because Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels could simply just scheme up a better, more unpredictable game plan than the Dolphins can at this point. And for week 1, I think that'll definitely give them the win.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited to see Cam Newton and Bill Belichick playing together, Bill Belichick with a new quarterback. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what he can do. Going into the next game, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington football team. I think this game is going to be just a slaughter of the Washington football team. I think the Eagles are going to put 40 points on their head. I don't know. I think the Redskins, I think they have a pretty decent defense, Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan, but I just think that it's just a mess over there in Washington. I think the Eagles are more prepared, better fitted to beat them handily.
I think Philadelphia wins, but I don't think it's a 40-point slaughter.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be that close, but I don't think it'll be a slaughter because I actually love that Washington front seven a lot. I think Chase Young has a good game. I say, 1.5, 2 sacks. And, I think their defense keeps it close. I don't like their offense at all. I don't like Haskins. I don't think he's going to be that good, if I'm totally honest with you. But I think Philadelphia wins, but I don't think it's 40 points.
Yeah, I mean, we already see Philadelphia kind of limping into the season with a lot of injuries on their roster already. And we just saw the inability for their wide receivers to kind of get open and create separation. And I think that continues today. I think the Eagles are going to win, but I think it's going to kind of be a close game by default just because that Eagles offense are just going to be so depleted. And I think Carson Wentz is just going to kind of will them to a win.
Excited to see, Carson Wentz. We both love him. I mean, I'm excited to see him back healthy. Moving into the next game, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, not the Oakland, not the LA Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders playing the Carolina Panthers. With this game, I think the Raiders are going to come out on top. I think with the Panthers, you have a new quarterback, a new coach. It's just a lot of kind of too much things going into one game. I think Carr has been there for a long time. Gruden's been there for 3 seasons. And I'm excited to see Ruggs, who is such blazing speed, such a fast guy, what Gruden can do with him because has such a great offensive mind. So I think the Las Vegas Raiders are going to win this game against the Panthers.
I agree. I think Vegas comes out on top. That's weird to say, Vegas. But, I think they come out on top. New coach, new quarterback. Again, as you said, that's, not easy to do. And I think Carr, with, his experience, I've always been kind of high on Derek Carr. I think he's a little bit better than people make him out to be. And I do expect a pretty big game from Ruggs. I think Ruggs scores a touchdown. I think Ruggs goes for a good amount of yards because that Panthers secondary is not great. And I believe Vegas comes out on top.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are going to win this game as well, but this is one of my least confident picks. Honestly, I'm not too high on the Vegas Raiders as I think a lot of other people are. I think they're going to win around 6 or 7 games. I just think that this year is another gap year in order for them to kind of receive a lot of talent on the roster because I think they've done an okay job at acquiring talent, but not certainly as good as you would hope.
So moving on to the next game. So we got my Indianapolis Colts versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm excited for this game. We got a new quarterback, Phillip Rivers. I think the Colts are going to win. I just think they have, despite Phillip Rivers, which is still an unknown how he's going to perform, I think the Colts just have a better roster on every side of the football, better offensive line, better running game, better wide receivers. I mean, the Jaguars, if you look at their AFC Championship team versus this team this year, I mean, there's just like four players, if you're being generous, maybe, if that are still on the roster. So it's just a completely different team. I think the Jaguars are shooing for the first overall pick, so I'm going to go with Colts in a pretty sizable victory.
I agree. I think Jacksonville is the worst team in the league this year. I expect them to get the first overall pick, and I see Indianapolis winning. What I will say, though, is I've seen a lot of people that are high on the Colts. I am not one of them. I don't really see exactly what everyone sees in this team. I think they get second, maybe third in their division, but I do have them winning the game because Jacksonville is just not good.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take now. I do think there's 1 or 2 football teams, specifically in the NFC East, in my opinion, that actually might be sneakily worse than the Jaguars this season. But I do have, again, the Colts winning this game, but not as much of a big margin as I think people will think. I think Gardner Minshew will actually have a quiet, nice year and kind of.
So last 1 o'clock game, we have the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. So reigning MVP Lamar Jackson opening up the season against his division rivals, the Cleveland Browns. I think this is going to be a pretty close game. I think the Ravens are going to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a slugfest. These teams are going to hit each other hard because they are division rivals. And I think the Browns are just going out there to prove that they aren't the team that they were last year. So I think that they are going to play with the Ravens till the fourth quarter. I think it's going to be a close ball game. But the Ravens are going to, I think they're going to really attack the Browns linebacking core because that's very weak. It's not what it used to be. They traded a couple players. They got injuries. So I think that's the weak part that could be the Browns' downfall fall in this game?
I almost picked Cleveland. I really did. I'm going to pick Cleveland because I don't remember what week it was of last year. It was early in last season. I mean, again, that's almost a year ago now. But, Cleveland has shown they can beat Baltimore with, kind of the same teams they have. And I think it being week 1, I think, as you said, that weak linebacking core is not going to be ready. I think Lamar is going to run all over him. It'll be close, but I think Baltimore comes out on top.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think it's going to be a close game. I was teetering between the Browns and the Ravens too, but I also think the Ravens are going to win. Now, I do think if the Browns win, it's because they're watching that divisional game last year and they saw how well the Titans ran on that Ravens defense, and they're going to use Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb all game. And if they come out on top, I expect both of them to have near 200 total yards between the two of them.
So moving on to the next game. Now this is the first 4:00 game. We have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Chargers are going to win. I think it's going to be a close game. I mean, the Chargers do have a great defense, but I just think their offense is going to stall out a lot with Tyrod at the helm. I'm excited to see Joe Burrow. I do like Joe Burrow a lot. It was fun to watch him in college, his record-breaking season last year. But I think the Chargers are going to win in a low-scoring game.
This is one of those gut feelings where I think Joe Burrow plays one game and gets one win. I think Cincinnati wins. I don't like Tyrod Taylor at all at the helm for the Chargers. I think Ekeler has a big game, but I don't like how the Chargers look. They don't have Derwin right now. Their defense is a little bit depleted. And I think Joe Burrow comes out hot. Bengals win. Joe Mixon has a big game. And, it's just one of those gut things again. But
yeah, I also have a very weird gut feeling that the Bengals and Joe Burrow are going to kind of pencil in a week 1 win. The only reason I'm picking the Chargers is just because I can't ignore that. I think that will be the difference of the game. I think the Chargers are going to get at least 5 sacks on Joe Burrow for a kind of welcome to the NFL rookie moment. And I think the Chargers are going to kind of limp to the finish line, but they're going to win that game.
Moving on to the next game, we have, I think probably the game that most of America is looking forward to, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at New Orleans Saints. I mean, obviously the Buccaneers are trying to build some sort of super team, adding obviously Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette. But I think kind of a big factor going to this game, which will change a lot of people's mind when picking who's going to win, is Mike Evans is not going to play this game. I think he's battling a hamstring injury. But with that being said, I think that the Saints are going to win. I think they're a little more organized. They have more chemistry than these Buccaneers because they did have one off season together with a lot of these players, and obviously it's a COVID off season, so it's not a true off season where they can kind of get into football shape together. But I think the Saints are a well-oiled machine in the regular season. I think Sean Payton and Drew Brees have a great combination together, and I think that the Saints are going to come out on top.
So I have New Orleans winning, and Tampa Bay is a team that a lot of people are very high on. And I will say it again, I am not one of them. I don't like Brady coming into this year. I think Gronk is incredibly overhyped coming into this year, coming off the worst year of his career and sitting out an entire year. I think New Orleans takes this one pretty handily. And that's all I got to say, especially without Mike Evans. I have Mike Evans on my fantasy team, so I'm a little bit disappointed. But without Mike Evans, Godwin will be there. You got Gronk, which I don't think he'll be that great. Their running backs, I don't know how Fournette's going to perform. The defense is so-so. Shaq Barrett's good. Secondary is not good. I had New Orleans winning it.
Yeah, I do think this Buccaneers team, specifically Tom Brady, he's so chemistry-based with his wide receivers, and I think they won't have enough chemistry week 1 to quite edge it out against the Saints. So I'm going to have the Saints winning this game, but I do expect week 1 Buccaneers are going to be much worse than week 17 Buccaneers, and I do think they're going to be fighting for a playoff position, whether that's for the division. I'm not too sure about that, but definitely for a wild card spot, in my opinion.
Very excited for that game. I mean, Brady versus Brees. I mean, that's a great storyline. But going on to the next game that I know you two are both excited for, we have the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. I'll let you guys talk a little bit more because it's your favorite teams, but I think that the San Francisco 49ers are going to win this game, and they just have a great defense. They have a great running attack. I'm looking forward to see how Garoppolo is going to perform because, I mean, there's a lot of bright lights on him to see if he actually is a good quarterback. His Super Bowl performance wasn't too great. I'm excited to see how Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury are going to perform together in this new age offense that they're putting together in Arizona. But with that being said, 49ers getting the W here.
All right, I'm going to defend my quarterback real quick. He outplayed Mahomes for 3 quarters.
I agree with that.
Mahomes
Before
didn't play too great in that Super Bowl either.
No, he outplayed in the fourth quarter. Jimmy G had the first 3 quarters, which I didn't expect to be able to say that, but I did. All right, before I get into this game, I'm very high on Arizona this year, so I want to let that out before. I think Arizona's going to be really good this year. I have my Niners winning. I don't think that comes without that. I don't think that's surprising. Debo got ruled out though. I'm a little scared. Debo did get ruled out of this game, so that's not helpful. I think the Niners defense is a lot, and I have Kyler on my fantasy team too, so it's a win-win situation on that one. But I think that Niners defense is going to come out in full force, and I expect a much improved Jimmy Garoppolo. I just tore my ACL. That's not really that important, but an ACL tear is a big deal, and coming off like that first year is super important. So once you have time to rehab, play that first year, I can tell that once you trust it, a ton of stuff has helped because I can tell last year when he was playing, he was a bit timid on it. He didn't obviously he's not a running quarterback, but you could tell he was a little scared to do certain things. Mm-hmm. I think much more confidence coming into this year. I think the Niners take it. It'll be a close one, but I do think the Niners take it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do think at times he didn't step into throws and he kind of shied away because of that knee. And people really forget that Jimmy Garoppolo has about as many career starts as a guy like Sam Darnold does or Baker Mayfield or some of those 3-year quarterbacks. So Jimmy Garoppolo with time and more starts, he's only going to get better. I just have a weird gut feeling about this game where I know the 49ers, I think out of all the teams, have the least amount of padded practices just because of they've really had the injury bug kind of throughout training camp. I know that they kind of had to stop practice short because of the air quality in San Francisco, and they did just come off a Super Bowl loss. I do not expect the 49ers to have a Super Bowl hangover, but I think all the right ingredients are just riding on the Cardinals to win this game. They also had a very, very good offseason. They're kind of riding on that high, and I do think this is going to be a statement game for the Arizona Cardinals, and I think it will be a really high-scoring game, but I do think the Arizona Cardinals will win.
Yeah, I think whoever comes out, looking at the Cardinals specifically, I think if they win, it's going to be, or win or lose, it's going to be very telling about how the season's going to perform for the Arizona Cardinals. But going on to the Sunday night game, we have the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Rams, opening up that new stadium that so many people have talked about. In this game, I'm going to go with the Rams. I just think, I actually Googled this. I said, what is the Rams' winning percentage in primetime with Goff? Because I feel like they always win primetime games with Goff, and it's actually a 64% winning percentage with Goff at the helm during prime time games. So I think the Rams are going to win. I think they always come out hot at the beginning of the season while the Cowboys come out slow at the beginning of the year while they catch speed at the end of the season. So with that being said, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I mean, both defenses aren't that great. I'm excited to see CeeDee Lamb play with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm excited to see actually Cam Akers to play with the Rams and how he's going to perform as the new Rams running back. But Rams are going to win this game.
So that winning percentage, I believe, is going to go down. I believe that I'm high on Dallas this year. I think they win their division pretty handily, honestly. And I think they come out, new coach. They don't got the Clapper anymore. They don't got Jason Garrett. Mike McCarthy is a good coach. He'll come in. They're going to come out on all cylinders. Dak, Zeke. I love that defense this year too. I think Dallas takes this one.
Yeah, no, I see both of your points. And I just think that the Cowboys are going to be a better football team than the Rams this season. I just think it'll come down to kind of the ability of Sean McVay to really scheme up this game and get a lot of open looks for Jared Goff. I think that this Dallas secondary is really going to struggle with guys like Cooper Kupp getting a lot of manufactured kind of catches over the middle, Robert Woods. And I really am just confident in Sean McVay this game, and that's why I'm going to pick the Rams.
So moving into Monday night, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the New York Giants. If I was Daniel Jones, I would be terrified to play this defense. Looking at last year and then and this offseason, if you watch tape of them, they're a scary defense. They're easily the strongest part of the team. So I think that Daniel Jones is going to be hit a lot and hit often by the Pittsburgh Steelers front seven. And I think the Steelers are going to dominate this football game for the 4 quarters.
I am in agreement with that one. I think Pittsburgh takes this pretty handily. I love Pittsburgh defense, easily top 3 defense in the league. For the entire season, I'm not so sold on Pittsburgh because I don't like their offense. I don't like Big Ben being, 39 years old now, coming off a throwing injury. I don't like that. I'm not so confident in their offense, but I think that defense is going to help them, especially in this game against a Giants team that is not great. I think Pittsburgh takes it.
Yeah, I think Ben Roethlisberger going into this year, he might have his good moments throughout the season, but I think he's just so shaky, and I think this offense will kind of limp by. Meanwhile, you do have a top 3 defense on that other side. I'm in love with the Steelers defense in all honesty. I think they are going to get a wild card spot. They're not going to win their division, but I do expect them to get a wild card spot. And I alluded to this before. I strongly believe the Giants are a top 3 worst team in the NFL going into the season. I think they took a downgrade on their offensive play calling, getting Jason Garrett, who's had one of the most vanilla offenses in the NFL the past 8 years. I think that Daniel Jones is not going to take the step forward we all expect him to take because of this coaching staff. And I do think the Steelers are going to beat them pretty good week 1.
So moving on to our last game, we have Tennessee Titans at the Denver Broncos. So this game, in my mind, was the hardest to pick. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched, and I'm really excited to watch this game. I mean, for the reason of I love watching Derrick Henry just run over people. And obviously with Von Miller going down, I mean, it's going to be hard for the Denver Broncos to stop Derrick Henry. But I think that this Broncos offense is pretty great. They put together a lot of pieces, obviously drafting KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, adding Melvin Gordon. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think the Broncos are going to come out on top. I think Drew Lock is going to show a lot because he was coming to his own at the end of the year when he finally got the go-ahead to start. I'm excited to see this game. I'm going to go with Broncos.
I almost picked the Broncos. That was until Cortland Sutton went down with an injury.
Yeah.
And then I picked Tennessee. I think that Von Miller injury is a big deal. I think that Cortland Sutton injury is a big deal because now your leading receivers are 2 rookies who I think are going to be very good, but 2 rookies in a no preseason. They've never played an NFL game before in their lives. I don't see that happening. I think Denver makes the playoffs. I think they're going to be good this year, but I think Tennessee with Derrick Henry, Tannehill's veteran experience, I think Tennessee comes out on top.
Yeah, it's always really hard to kind of go into the thin air week 1 as a visiting team and pull out with the win, but that's what I expect this really well-coached Titans team to do under Mike Vrabel. I just really think that Drew Lock is going to struggle a little bit and have his ups and downs throughout this season. It's going to be his first full year of starting in the NFL, and I just think week 1 that the Titans are going to really pull away, even though I think all 3 of us are a little high about kind of the Broncos' future going forward in the next couple of years.
So there we have it. There's our predictions. I'll ask you guys, is there any other games you want to dive a little deeper into? Because we were kind of trying to get through these quickly because we didn't want to spend too much time on one game, but now we got out of the way. Is there any game you wanted to dive into deeper?
I mean, we could further talk about the Niners because I like the Niners, but
Yeah, I mean, that game's going to be really interesting. I think that is going to be a really key indicator to how Kyler Murray's season is going to shape out. I mean, a big thing going into that game is that the 49ers had one of the best rushing attacks in all of football last year, and the Cardinals had one of the worst run defenses in all of football, and I think that really might decide the game if the 49ers end up winning. I do think it's going to be leaning very heavily onto that run game, but similar to both games they played last year, Jimmy Garoppolo made some really big key plays because the Cardinals were in both games, if you remember that, late in the season. I know they played one game, I believe, on Halloween, and the other one was a couple weeks later. The Cardinals had a fourth quarter lead in one of them, but 49ers are just more well-prepared, better coached, and they just have better players that really helped them prevail to win last 2 times they met.
yeah. I mean, without Jimmy Garoppolo, Niners don't win the 2 games last year against the Cardinals. It was the only reason they won those 2 games. And that's something, as a Niners fan, that's something you don't say about a lot of the Niners games, but he carried them through a lot. So if you get that one, and then I think the Niners lean a lot on the rushing attack like they always do, but especially in this game, with it being their first game, they're going to rotate a lot of the running backs. You're going to see Mostert. You're going to see Coleman. You're probably going to see McKinnon, who hasn't played in over 2 years, so that'll be interesting to see. You're going to see a lot of running backs out there. You always got Kittle. I think Kittle gets even a bigger part in their receiving game this year because we learned our lesson from the Super Bowl. But I think if the Niners offense can do what they do with their running game, I think they win this game. If not, we have a problem. But
yeah, definitely. Even if they utilize Kyle Juszczyk, had an absolutely fantastic Super Bowl. I love watching him too. It's going to be tough for Arizona because they don't have the defensive personnel to keep up with all those guys. Hopefully, guys like Budda Baker, we just extended to a huge contract. Guys like Isaiah Simmons coming in, Patrick Peterson, maybe he can return to kind of his Pro Bowl form. I really think that if the defense is kind of bend but don't break, I do think that even though the 49ers defense is really, really good, I think that some of our speedy guys on the outside and some of our just really good wide receivers, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, even Christian Kirk, I think that they're going to have a really good game. And if Kyler Murray's on the money, then I do think the Cardinals will win.
I think the key to this game is to protect Kyler Murray because 49ers defense is so good and Kyler Murray is so undersized and if he was playing a lesser defense, he would be able to use his speed a lot and run around the pocket, but if it's collapsing so quickly like the 49ers are capable of doing, it's going to be a long day for Kyler Murray, so I think they really got to work on protecting him at all costs because they don't want him to get hit against someone like Nick Bosa, who is a bona fide star.
I think Fred Warner is a big key to this game. If Fred Warner can kind of obviously he's going to be in coverage. He's a great coverage linebacker too. But, if he can kind of keep Kyler, in the pocket, not let him escape too far, I think the Niners have a really good chance. And, with that amazing front seven that they do have, it's going to be hard for Kyler, who is, again, undersized. And I remember the Cardinals don't have a great offensive line from what I know. I don't know how much they improved on it this year. So I don't know how much, that helps them. But I think that linebacking core is going to be huge for the Niners in this game.
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch last year. Some games Larry Fitzgerald was really involved in the passing game, and some other games he was legitimately used as a guy that kind of chipped the edge rusher and kind of blocked on the slot and then would kind of release. And that's what we did against the 49ers with a lot of success against Nick Bosa. Larry Fitzgerald would kind of just chip him, and I expect a similar thing to happen. I think both our running back and Larry Fitzgerald and our tight ends, quite frankly, are going to help out with this pass protection. I think we're going to have on average about 3 guys going out for a pass, but if Kyler Murray could kind of create some time, use his feet a little more than he even did last year and just kind of pick this zone coverage, then I think they're going to have a lot of success.
Another game I kind of want to go into, I thought we were all like up in the air about who's actually going to win, is the Las Vegas Raiders at the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I think all 3 of us were kind of like on a pendulum we were kind of hard to pick which team we're going to win, but I'm excited to see the Raiders with Henry Ruggs. I just absolutely love Henry Ruggs. I think he's potentially the best wide receiver coming out of the draft class from last year. I know a lot of people have high praise for CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, but I think Ruggs is the perfect combination of speed. He has great hands, and he's so tough. So I think it's going to be fun to watch him. I know Derek Carr, Anthony's a little high on him, but I think he gets the hate he deserves. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think soon enough the Raiders might have to move on from him, but I'm excited to watch this game because I'm excited to see Matt Rhule, who, I mean, if you like college football, you know that he turned around Temple, he turned around Baylor, and he's going to come into Carolina. So hopefully he can turn them around. And Teddy Bridgewater, who is a mediocre quarterback, kind of a game manager. He did so well in New Orleans last year, but it was I feel like it was a little scripted for him, and he did have Michael Thomas, so that helps. But I think the Raiders are going to win. I'm excited to see how it's going to play out.
I've always liked Derek Carr. I really do think without that injury, that back injury, and I don't remember what year that was when they played the Texans in the wildcard game, I think they go pretty far in those playoffs. So Jacobs this year, I think Josh Jacobs is going to do really well this year too. And then that defense, looks shaky. They did a lot with their linebacking core this year, adding Littleton and whoever that, I can't pronounce the Bears linebacker's name that came to the Raiders. But, Jonathan Abrams is back this year for them. I think the Raiders, I don't expect them to be great. I think they're going to be around 500, but I definitely think they're going to be better than the Panthers, who, are going to be shaky with a new coach, new quarterback, and, secondary. So I think the Raiders are going to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all in agreement. The Raiders are going to win this football game, but I do think that the Panthers offense is going to have a little bit success. I really do like DJ Moore. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs in the NFL, if not the best. I know he's the best receiving back in the NFL, I would certainly argue. And I do think Matt Rhule is going to be pretty impressive in this opener, scripting up some really good drives. And I do think this is going to be rather a high-scoring game. I'd probably pick the over in the combined score, but I do think John Gruden and this Raiders team, just a lot of continuity. It's a very similar team to what they had last year. And so I think that another year in the John Gruden system for Derek Carr is going to do good, but I do think in 1 to 2 years, just because of the nature of John Gruden, he's very impatient with his quarterbacks, especially without a lot of playoff success, whether that's fair to Derek Carr or not. I do think that the Raiders will be in the market for a quarterback very soon. And I think if they pile up some early season losses, I would not be surprised to see them kind of play younger players and not intentionally lose, but not be too upset about losing.
I'm in complete agreement. I think, it's might be time after the season move on from Derek Carr and kind of look into the offseason, maybe trade for a quarterback or draft one because there are some big-name quarterbacks going to this year's NFL draft. But we'll go into one more game that you guys want to break down if there's any, and then we'll call it a day after that game.
I guess we can talk about the Buccaneers and Saints a little bit more. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting fight. One of the best, if not the best, kind of quarterback division in the NFL. Now, I know, Anthony, you're not as high on Tom Brady as I think others, and I know Tom Brady, his skill has certainly declined a little bit, and I'm in agreement with you when it comes to Rob Gronkowski. I think he's overrated going into this season. I think he's going to be a very situational tight end, but I think if Bruce Arians really knows his role, then he's not going to be played too much, maybe 20 snaps a game. But again, if they're not relying on him to be that kind of big tight end and that number one tight end that he used to be, then I think they'll be quite all right.
Yeah, I mean, Gronk specifically, if we're just going to talk about that, like, you know, he came off, I mentioned this a little bit, but he came off the worst year of his career and then retired for a year. Knowing Gronk, he did absolutely nothing that had to do with football.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously he's had time to, you know, get back into football shape and everything. I don't think he'll be bad, but what maybe the most annoying is the Madden rating, even though it's Madden, so it's not as big of a deal. But a 95 in Madden for someone that hasn't played in a year is not good. That's bad.
I think Gronk's going to be used as a smokescreen. I think this signing was totally just for publicity, but I think got to respect Gronk a little bit because the year that Patriots won the Super Bowl was obviously his last year. He was, I mean, his body was falling apart. He was so injured, and I think he just needed a year off. I thought after he said he was going to retire, I knew he was going to come back to football because he's just a football guy. That's just the way he lives. But I think his body was just like couldn't heal fast enough because he kept going out there and playing and getting more hurt. So I think he is closer to 100% than he usually is in New England because they did use him so often. But I think he's going to be a situational guy, smokescreen, because they do have Cam and Brady. They do have O.J. Howard, who are pretty good tight ends. So I think it's going to be a close game. I'm excited to see. I think Brady, he's so great. I mean, I'm a Colts fan, so I hate the Patriots. But this past offseason, I got a lot more respect for Tom Brady because him finally getting up and leaving New England and just going his own way. I think he's a very smart player and I think he has a great arm. He still has a great arm. I think he does checkdowns a lot because it's just the way the New England offense was set up. But I'm excited to see what he's going to do on his own, to see if people think he's a system quarterback or not.
Yeah, certainly. And going into the Saints, just real quick, I think they will have another really good regular season, but I think it will just be the same story where they get to the playoffs, they're a really high seed, 1, 2, or 3 seed. In the NFC, maybe they even get that coveted 1 seed that's the only kind of seeding with a bye with our kind of new playoff format. I just think they're going to get knocked off again. They're going to play a really good defense that can really limit kind of the short to intermediate passing game. And Drew Brees really just has an inability to throw the deep ball nowadays on a consistent basis, especially at the end of the season in a playoff game. And that's been proven time and time and again. I just think that with age, that's only going to be kind of progressed. And I just don't expect the Saints to even be in an NFC championship this year.
I mean, I'm always high on the Saints, and with my playoff prediction, I do have the Saints losing to the Niners in the NFC Championship because, you know, I'm biased. I like the Niners. But, yeah, I think the Saints are a good team. I think Kamara is going to be really good this year. I think he's going to take a step forward from last year, which was kind of a disappointment. Rated signing. I think Sanders has a lot left in the tank. I saw that last year in San Francisco. I think Sanders is great. That offensive line is pretty good. And then you go to the defense. The defense is pretty good over there. They got a lot of good players. And it may not be like top tier, but it's a solid defense. That team is really well-rounded. And, I mean, you can talk about this game or any of the other games. I think New Orleans definitely takes a 1, 2, or 3 seed in the NFC and is back right where they need to be in the playoffs. Hopefully they don't choke again, but they're where they need to be.
Yep.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know what do you think of our picks, and we'll see you in the next one.